Welcome to the Monday, June 17, 2019 session of the Lake Forest City Council. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Certainly. Pro Tem Mayor Newman.
Here.
Alderman Beidler.
Here.
Alderman Morris.
Here.
Alderman Rummel is absent. Alderman Preschlack.
Here.
Alderman Goshgarian.
Here.
Alderman Moreno.
Here.
Alderman Bushman.
Here.
Pro Tem Mayor, you have quorum.
Thank you, Betty. Would everyone please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. First item on the agenda, report of city officers. Agenda item number 1, comments by the mayor. I have none this evening, so we'll move to agenda item number 2, comments by the city manager, Jason Wisha.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and members of council. I have a few items for council's consideration tonight. First, although no action is requested, each year the Lake Forest Preservation Foundation honors individuals and organizations who have demonstrated a commitment to excellence in the preservation of Lake Forest's architectural heritage. Tonight, I'm pleased to introduce Tom Gleason, the awards chairman of the Lake Forest Preservation Foundation. He is here tonight to provide background into the awards program and to review this year's recipients. Tom?
Thank you for the introduction. Hello and good evening. My name is Tom Gleason. I'm a board member for the Preservation Foundation. I'll be going through some of the award winners this year. The range and variety of the properties honored since 1991 by the Preservation Foundation Awards covers both large and small homes, businesses, landscapes, public spaces all across Lake Forest, and 1 or 2 spots into neighboring Lake Bluff. The 8 awards today represent the 4 categories: rehabilitation, infill, preservation, and heritage. There are 2 other categories, reconstruction, restoration, but we did not have any awards in those categories this year. We follow the standards for judging these structures and landscapes based on the Department of Interior's National Register for Historic Places, their criterias. The first one is 511 Rosemary. The owners are Patrick and Lois McGriff. This is a couple that moved to the community very recently and purchased this home. They lived in Pennsylvania and they were transferred here and were looking in the whole of Chicago area for places that reminded them in Pennsylvania the historic character that they moved from, and came across this home. It's a 1928 Stanley Anderson Tudor, built by the Griffiths brothers, who were a family of contractors and builders here in Lake Forest. It's located in East Lake Forest. The main focal feature as you drive by there has a very low, charming stone wall all across its front drive. The next award, 1950 Merritt Lane. This is in the far southwest corner of town. It was the only home in that area for a very long time. It wasn't a large manor home or part of a grand estate, but it was the main home in that section of town for a while. It was built in 1936, the design attributed to Ralph Millman. It's a 2-story brick country home, quaint little street that it's tucked in off down there. The homeowners have brought it back to some of its original characteristics. There was a renovation to it sometime before they bought it, and they changed a number of the doors and windows, bringing it more into alignment of the structure. They also have a separate small garage that they added that fits in with the character of the streetscape there. Diana Melikar was the architect of that project, and she won one of our architect awards for that project. 5 East Laurel, Doctors Anna and Stephen Russo. This is a home that was saved from shambles. It had gone into decline for a number of years. They bought it a few years ago and started a long, tedious process of clearing out a lot of the landscape, starting in on the home, the interior and the exterior. It's a 1936 Stanley Anderson, Georgian house. It's all land and stone. It has a Palladian front window inspired with the Oculus window up in the top, and it was done a year after the high school was done. So you see some similarities in the stone and structure in this house that was done a year later than the high school. I mentioned how extensively they put the sweat equity into this house, and it looks gorgeous. The next one is Lake Forest Academy, 2 buildings there, contemporary ones. One is their science and math center, and the other is their student union. The low slung roofs there align with some of the other structures that were added in the 1990s, just north of the main Ogden Armor House that's there from 1905, the Arthur Hune designed house and landscape. Fits in very nicely. These buildings were necessary for the academy's continuation and students in the academics there and the sciences. Peter Whitmer was the architect on these. The next one is the bridge at Middle Fork. When Mike Rummel started this project many years ago, he was an alderman, then tried to get some traction with it as mayor, and then now when he's been on the county board, was able to secure some grants, and it's a public-private partnership. There were a number of donors involved with restoring it. You see on the right slide an element of the old bridge that was there. It was the bridge that you would come in off of Waukegan Road. Mr. Armour would wind through his property, go over this bridge. It was the highest point on his estate, and then continue over to where the main house is. It had gotten into serious decay, wasn't there at all for I think a couple decades, but very recently this trellis spanning the full length of the bridge was put back, and now joggers, bikers, walkers. It connects that Savannah Prairie walking path to LFA campus and the homes that are back in the Academy Woods area. The train, that's a picture of the bridge when it spanned over the train track, and the bottom left is the drive-in off Waukegan going down south, crossing the bridge, and then over to his estate on the left. The next award was the East Train Station. This was a project that was about 10 years in the working. It started off with a historic structure report by Gunny Harbo, the preservation architect. Then some federal grants were secured, and it was done in phases. The roof and exterior. The final phase, excuse me, was the interior. Tremendous job by everyone involved, the craftsmen, carpenters, the city. Mike Strong had a big part in that, in lining up with some of the staff of the Preservation Foundation and getting it all worked out. Tremendous job. 1035, that's another interior of the train, some of the details. The next award winner was 1035 North Sheridan Road, Carla Westcott's home. It's a 2-story frame, center hall colonial. It's on 4 acres of former Smith Arboretum that was in the later 1880s. Very large property, a lot of big grand trees, a massive ginkgo that's on the back side of the house. One of the bay windows there on the south facade or southeast facade was salvaged from the World's Fair in 1893 and put on there. Across the street from it is Winter Club, and they had a large toboggan, and the terminal part of the toboggan run was on this estate going across the street. And our final award winner is 408 East Illinois, just on the back side of Gorton Center. David Wads are the owners. It's a 1859 Gilbert Rossiter home. It's one of the oldest homes in town, next to Mrs. Southworth's house. It was originally located on Deer Path near the west end of Triangle Park, and at that time a lot of people shifted homes around and moved them. This is another example of that. It was moved to this location in the 1920s. The porch has elements related to another house on Sheridan Road, 725, probably by Alfred Granger, who did that work at that time. So here are the award winners. You see the 8 places varying in size, age, and function. Styles range from the initial years of Lake Forest founding up to the 21st century modern revival style at LFA. Architects ranging historically from Frost and Granger, Stanley Anderson, up to Peter Whitmer today. Through the dedication of the owners and agencies of these award winners today, join previous award winners in the continuation of preservation in our town, and know that it's intact through the diligence and hard work of these people with their historic homes and properties. Thank you. Oh, that was our talk. That was nice. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Marcy. We appreciate all the work you do to keep this all relevant, so keep going. Thank you.
Next, each year ComEd creates an annual report for its franchise municipalities that summarizes the various reliability data from the previous year and highlights system-wide initiatives that it has planned for the upcoming year. Tonight, the city's External Affairs Manager, Calandra Davis, is here to present the annual report for 2018. And again, this item is for discussion purposes only. No direction or action from the City Council is needed.
Thank you. As he mentioned, I'm Calandra Davis. I'm with ComEd. I'm your External Affairs Manager. I started last August, so this is my first year with you guys delivering the annual report. Thank you for having me. I'm really, really happy to be here. The first topic I'll touch upon is your reliability performance. Lake Forest experienced an overall 99.97% reliability rate in 2018. Our SAFE, I'm not sure if you heard the term SAFE in Katy, but SAFE is basically the average number of interruptions per customer, and Katy is the average duration per outage in minutes. As you can see, your SAFE rate did decrease from 2017 to 2018, which is great. The duration increased a little, a bit, but that is mostly because the majority of your outages were due to weather, were either weather-related or tree-related. So naturally, a tree limb that takes out an overhead line just takes a little bit longer to repair than, you know, for example, replacing a fuse or something of that nature. The second, that's kind of hard for you guys to read, but I'll go over that briefly. It highlights the work that the system improvements that we've done that benefit Lake Forest. DA devices, distribution automation devices, we didn't install any in 2018, but we do plan to install 5 additional DA devices in 2019. The neighborhood underground cable replacement program, we installed a little under a mile in 2018, and as of now, we've completed 100% of the circuits identified as needing cable replacement. Mainline cable replacement, 600 feet in 2018, and again, as with the neighborhood cable, we've completed 100% of the circuits identified as needing repair or replacement. The next 2 categories actually have not changed since your last annual report review, and that's because, again, we had completed 100% of the planned work for both of those categories. Tree trimming, which I know is near and dear to a lot of people's hearts, we completed 8 miles of vegetation trimming in 2018 on 2 circuits, but for 2019, our work plan includes 25 circuits to be trimmed, so this will be a big full cycle trim for Lake Forest. And then the wood pole inspections and refurbishments, we replaced 28 distribution wood poles in 2018. There are none in the work plan for next year. The next topic is EIMA. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with EIMA, but it's Energy Infrastructure and Modernization Act from 2011. I know I see some head shaking. That's when ComEd invested $2.6 billion in our energy, in our infrastructure system. $1 billion of that going towards smart meters, $1.6 billion in other grid modernization efforts, substations, smart switches, et cetera. Lake Forest smart meters, for all who didn't opt out, were completed in 2017. And in fact, we're done with all of our smart meter deployment a couple years ahead of schedule. Performance results from EIMA, overall system improvement, 60% improvement in reliability, 37% improvement in storm outages. And of course, we continue to focus on Safety and Katy and CME improvements. FEJA came after EIMA, so as EIMA created a smart grid, FEJA creates what we call a green grid. So the FEJA, which stands for Future Energy Jobs Act, it's a law that was passed by the Illinois General Assembly in 2016. And FEJA, what FEJA does is it expanded our energy efficiency programs. It extended our financial assistance programs, our ComEd Care. Our energy efficiency, our ComEd Care, our LED street light conversion for municipalities, our community solar and solar projects, and also the Bronzeville microgrid program. I have some additional details on that that I can pass on to Mike should anybody want additional information, but unless you want me to go into detail, I guess I'll kind of leave it at that. But the one thing I guess I do want to touch upon is the LED streetlight conversion, which allows municipalities to apply for incentives to replace their streetlights with LED, more energy efficient streetlights, and they receive an incentive for doing so. Any muni-owned streetlight is eligible to participate. Any muni-owned streetlight is eligible for the program. And I think that is it, unless there are any questions.
Questions from council?
We have been having discussions, as Mike knows, with a ComEd representative in our second ward. We have a street where the distribution lines are quite distant from the street.
Okay.
And so I guess I would ask you, I don't expect that you are well informed on that topic tonight, but it's a situation where we have several homes. I don't remember the exact count, but I'll.
COF? Okay. Yeah, I'm aware of that. Those are called customer-owned facilities. So ComEd brings in the line 150 feet into the property. Anything beyond that is owned by the customer. And ComEd is working, as Mike knows. It's taking a little bit longer than we anticipated. So those are not ComEd facilities. Those are owned by the homeowners. We understand that some folks didn't understand that when they bought the house. If they were installed 50 years ago, you had no idea you were purchasing a home that had facilities that you owned and that, that weren't ComEd's. So we're very sensitive to that. And so although ComEd doesn't own those facilities, we have been developing a program to assist those customers. We did provide a list to Mike that he sent to all of the residents of Beverly, and I think there were a few others, with a COC, contractor of choice list, that because one of the issues was in a storm, if you're out of power, ComEd comes out, we restore our side, and we're like, oh, those aren't our facilities. Customer has no idea what to do. And so one of the components of the program we're developing was to provide the customers with a list of our contractors of choice. And so we've already done that. In the event that you have an outage, it's not on the ComEd side, it's on your side. Here are contractors of choice. They understand the condition, and they, you can work out, coordinate with them in terms of repairing your facilities. One other component of that is an incentive to underground the facilities. We understand there have been a couple residents that are just frustrated, and they said, hey, we'll just come out, give us an estimate, we'll pay for the undergrounding ourselves. I've asked Mike to ask them to hold off on that because we are We are very close to proposing a tariff. We're very close to meeting with the ICC with a proposal to offer an incentive to all COF customers, not just in Lake Forest. So this condition extends far beyond Lake Forest. So to all the customer-owned facilities customers to offer an incentive to underground their facilities. So we are working on it. It's been frustrating internally, externally. But it's taking a little longer, and mostly because again, these aren't our facilities, so we don't track them the way we do ours. We have excellent maps that we can tell you where every ComEd transformer is. We don't have those types of records for these facilities. We do have some records that we've gathered just with our crews being out for restoration efforts. They're saying, hey, I found these poles, they are now ours, so we map those, but we don't have a comprehensive list or mapping that identifies all of these facilities. So that's been a part of the process as well. And that's partly why, actually, that's mostly why it's taking so long. But we are, our intention is to move forward. I know that's been some question, is this something you guys are still going to do? Absolutely. It is something we have every intent to do, and we're very close to proposing a tariff and meeting with the ICC.
But I must say that we are very grateful that you are looking at this from a system-wide approach.
Yes.
Because I know that we're not unique in this, that there are many customers of ComEd that have this exposure, this distance from your facilities to the home or to the facility.
Absolutely.
One of the things that we struggled a great deal with in our Public Works Committee is that we can't get a fine sense of the timing. And you've alluded to it. You're going before the ICC. You're going for a rate change and an offering. Could you give us any view, at least on the next step, if not on the completion of the process? Because we have many residents that come to us and say, hey, I've been working on this. I'm trying. I've been to meetings. I've been to ComEd, and it's so frustrating for them that if we could at least have some view on where we are in the process and where we expect we'll be, it will help us to communicate on your behalf in the right way.
Yeah, we're very, we're very close to meeting with the ICC. I know we had planned to meet with them at the end of April, but then we found that there was a gap in the facility information that we had. Not to drag you through the whole process, but we created this algorithm that we thought would work, and we weren't comfortable with the accuracy of that, the level of accuracy with that information. So we hired an outside firm to do some back office work and see if maybe we could use Google and some of our CGIS mapping and that sort of thing, and we're only partly comfortable with the accuracy of that data. So we need the information. When we file this tariff, we have to know what customers are out there. We have to be able to notify these customers, so we have to know who they are in order to do that. And so again, that's really been the delay in this process. At this point, I don't want to give Mike another date because,
Appreciate
and
that.
then we have to, reel it back. But I know we're very close, and I will provide you guys with an update within the next week or so as to where we are. But we are very close to meeting with the ICC and proposing the tariff. I'll say I'm comfortable with saying within a month we should be. We won't be at the end of the process, but we should at least have a meeting scheduled at that point.
Great. Well, I know Mike's been really diligent about
Yeah,
communication, and that helps so much. That's really all we can ask at
Yeah.
this stage, because there are so many players in the process. But thank you. Thank you for staying on this and helping us get it resolved for our citizens. We
Yeah,
appreciate
no
it.
problem. Thank you for being patient.
Other questions for Ms. Davis? Right.
Just to follow up on that last point, again, being part of the Public Works Committee and the concerns that we've had on this issue, if you need anything from the city to support, whether it's a tariff rate change or a certificate of convenience and necessity, I'm hoping you could look to us to provide, public support to to the ICC to help hopefully expedite the matter.
Yeah, Mike has mentioned that as well. Yeah, and if there's anything we need from you, I'll definitely let you know.
I would just add, if I may, please, safety is really the biggest concern here, because we do have bad storms, and so, really appreciate your attention on this, and I know that the committee, and Mike in particular, is extremely focused on this topic. We don't want to have anything unexpected occur that needs the kind of emergency attention that we can potentially avoid.
Absolutely. Yep, I agree.
Well, thank you, Ms. Davis. We
Thank
appreciate your
you.
appearance.
Again, thank you for having me.
Jason?
Great, thank you. Next, as a continuing item under comments by the city manager, I've asked Public Works Director Mike Thomas and Recreation Director Sally Swarthout to provide brief updates on the status of the Hughes Gateway Restoration Project, as well as the city's beach parking protocols, respectively.
Great, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, members of the City Council. This evening, we'd like to provide yourselves and residents at home with a very brief update on the beach project. It is going very well, despite the weather that we've had over the past month. Just to give some very quick highlights, the ravine adjacent to the roadway, the private retaining wall has been installed. That is completed. The restoration, as far as soil preparation and planting, that is in progress. We've got a good number of plants on site now. We need to do some soil remediation and some preparation of the soil, and then all of that will be going in. The road itself, the armor stone revetment, which is at the very base, has been installed. The lower portion of the road embankment, the new road, which you'll see some pictures here soon, some larger pictures, but the lower portion of stone has all been brought in and graded appropriately. The upper portion, they actually are moving right along. They have a good amount of that in as well. The demolition, they took apart the parking lot on Friday, so they scraped off all the asphalt. Their plan is to use the stone, the CA6 that we're using for the embankment. They're going to reuse that on the embankment and move that over. We're going to reconstruct the parking lot, so that material is going to get essentially tossed anyway. We're going to reuse it. It's going to be the part of the embankment fill. 45,000 square feet of that. The neat statistic on this is that we have brought in so far over 2,400 semis worth of stone. Each semi carries about 20 tons. They have to date brought in 48,250 tons. The good news this evening is that they believe, and there's still some more grading, but they believe about 95% of the stone has been brought in. When we were sitting here talking a couple months ago, we envisioned semis going up and down Deer Path during the months of June, July, and August, when everybody would be walking to the beach. There are still going to be semis. We still have got more stone we need to bring in. We're still going to reconstruct a parking lot. But a majority of this fill material has been brought in, and that's the best news yet. Upcoming activities, if you remember with the design, on the upper portion, about 15 feet down, there is a drainage structure that needs to be installed. They will begin working on that. There's some storm sewer they need to start working on. There's a relocation of the sanitary sewer that we are hoping to start next week. But it's all continuing, and we've achieved all this, or the contractors achieved all this with what was a very, very wet May. Just a couple of pictures, somewhat difficult to see, but this is the new roadway exiting, and this is your embankment. This is the area that's going to get filled to the top, and this is the area then that will be planted. So here's another picture of it. So the material is being brought in, dumped, graded. They'll work their way up. They have a 2-to-1 slope already established here. This is the exit roadway, which will be concrete. excuse me, we will also put up a guardrail on the east side of it as well, very similar to the guardrail that is at the south end. But again, more pictures. They come in, dump, they exit, they turn around, and they leave the base for the roadway. So it's a lot of stone. It reminds me, excuse me, if you ever drive on the Chicago Skyway and you pass Calumet City and you see that large hill of salt. Boy, it sort of looks like that. But the good thing about all of this is this is what is going to hold that bluff. That bluff will not move again. So we will make it look nice here in a couple months, but right now it's just a whole lot of stone. So with that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
With all this rain, has there been any new hot spots that developed? Anything you're worried about?
We are going to be receiving a proposal from AECom we have 2 inclinometers, 2 tools that we measure movement of the bluff. They have reviewed that for the past 2 years. They're going to give us a proposal for the 3rd year. And when we have that data, we'll share it with the Public Works Committee, and happy to share it with City Council as well. To answer that question, visually, some of us have seen some movement, yes. Significant, drastic, no. But the truth is going to be told when the engineers can get in and take a look at movement on these 2 inclinometers. So,
Jed?
Yeah, I just want to compliment, the truck traffic has not been that noticeable. I would have never guessed you had that many passes on trucks going down the road. It's been tremendous.
and thanking the residents on Wesley, Sheridan, Deer Path, and Lake who've put up with all of that. The only complaints, we received a few complaints of the truckers going over the speed limit. So the police department was very good and got on them quickly, and they slowed down. We had 1 dust complaint on Deer Path. So we would water Deer Path down and sweep it. But otherwise, things have gone very well.
I went down yesterday. It really looks terrific. I have to say, it's a remarkable project. It's going really well.
Yeah, we were very surprised, very happy with this past month of May. Looking at all the rain that we received, we were concerned that it would really slow things down. But actually, the water helps compact CA6. It turns it essentially into concrete. So it's not a bad thing. If you were putting a sewer pipe in, all of that rain, something totally different. But compacting stone, just keep going.
So Mike, so barring any unforeseen issues, it sounds like on time, under budget, on budget, you're feeling really good about just the work in general and the schedule and the cost estimate
Yes,
coming in?
if you were to ask me that 7 or 8 weeks ago, I would be hesitant to agree. Now, yes, I would say that we will be on budget, including the contingency. There's going to be some additional stone that's going to need to be brought in to fill some of these voids on the bluff. When our engineer did the original surveying, all the brush and the trees, it was still on there. Now that we've taken all that out, there are some areas that are recessed that they couldn't see. Those gaps need to be filled in. So we have a cost per unit on that. We'll pay for whatever stone is placed. But to answer your question, on time, under budget, yes, I believe we will be. I'm not yet ready to say, could it be early? The contractor knows how eager we would all love for that to happen, and he's gonna keep going. And if we can, we will.
Mike, not wanting to get down into the weeds too much here, no pun intended. I remember a few months ago you were talking about the specific plantings that you needed to obtain from various nurseries throughout the Midwest. Were you able to obtain all of those that you needed?
Our city forester, city arborist, Corey Werma, and Cliff Miller, the landscape architect that we've hired, those 2 are still going to various nurseries all over the place. They have been tied at the hip. To answer your question, yes, it is just taking longer than what they expected. The good thing about that is that they are both putting their eyes on the material, and they're looking at it first to say, yes, it meets the quality, we'll take 5, or no, it doesn't, we need to find them in a different nursery. So a lot of the material has been staged on the ring road, and thankfully with the Forest Park project, we're able to keep that irrigated. There's irrigation systems throughout the park. But I am told next week they're going to begin installing. There's some soil work we need to do right up next to the roadway, next to the ravine. But as soon as that happens, material is going in. So yes, we're happy so far. We're doing well.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Mike.
Okay, thank you.
Back to you, Jason.
Actually, I'll turn it over to Sally. Who's next?
Good evening, Alderman and Mayor Pro Tem. I'm just here to give you an update on some lakefront data from Memorial Day through this past Sunday, June 16th. As Michael indicated, May was very wet, and the weekends in June have been very wet and very cold. The winds are off the lake, which not only brings in colder weather, it also brings in the fog. So we've not seen great attendance at the beach for the first few weeks, but we're hoping that we're going to get some weather shift and we'll start to see our residents being able to enjoy the facility. So to date, we've had 6,218 folks visit the beach. They've come by car, and they've come as walk-in, and they've come by bus. We've had 3,156 cars park in the lower south lot over the course of the last 4 weeks, totaling 5,328 people. And then 890 have walked in, and 51 of them were non-residents. The bus has been running on the weekends. Attendance in the bus has been low. I can honestly say that because the weather has been so bad, we've actually just let people come down and park and have sent the bus home early because that just makes good sense. As we look forward, it looks like we'll have some sun this coming weekend, but the true test will be the weekend prior to the 4th of July, so 29 and 30 of June. Hopefully we'll have summer. It has not stopped our boaters, though. We have had 43 powerboats launch from the ramp and 6 sailboaters that are not part of Lake Forest Sailing or our programming use the crane hoist to access the water on the weekends. With these 6 crane launches, we have had a safety issue come to our attention. We've had some folks walking underneath the cranes while the boats are in the air. So the staff has actually placed signage which will push pedestrians to the west side of the boardwalk as they pass that area. We are also looking at putting in some temporary stanchions and roping that will clearly delineate where folks should walk to keep people away from the cranes when they are suspended. So that is the one change to the operational plan that we have made at this point. I just wanted to remind everyone of the hours of operation. We are now in full beach season. June 8th through August 18th, we have our lifeguards daily from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. The beach patrol is 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. And then the boating center is 9 to 6, and we request that watercraft be returned by 6:30 so that we can send the staff home by 7. Concessions has got a varied schedule this year. They are open weekdays from 10 to 6 with the bar running from 12 to 6. On Fridays, they extend that bar till 7 o'clock. And then on the weekends, concessions is 9 to 6 with the bar running from 10 to 5. They too have seen slow patronage simply because 6,000 people is not a lot of people through that beach. And I just wanted to remind you of some of the fun stuff that's actually going on down at the lake. I put water rescues up here because the staff is very excited to have completed training with all 3 shifts of the fire department for our power boats, our safety boats for rescue training. We have actually had 2 rescues by boat. They were both 4 sailboats. One was off the beach of Lake Bluff. We got a call and were able to go and assist somebody who had broken their rudder we could tow them into land. And then we had a boat go up on the shores of Fort Sheridan. So we were able to grab that boat and bring it back to safety as well. The photo you see is what we call the Little Luffers Camp. It's our sailing camp for our youngest. They are, I believe, 6 and 7 years old. It's an opportunity for them to get out on the water, learn about it, hopefully learn to love it, and then come back to sail as they grow older. This camp started June 10th, and after the first week, we've actually had to add registration spots and an instructor because the popularity of it and the love for it has just grown. And folks just want to be there. And right here you see one of our instructors in the boats with one of the little ones. And I think what's most amazing is that by the end of the first week, they could actually sail those boats around in the basin by themselves, which is pretty remarkable when you think about how little they are and how short the time is. The next great thing we have going on down there is laser racing. We have a race team for laser sailors, the laser radials. And we currently have 8 to 10 laser sailors on the team, which is the largest squad of sailors in this category in the Midwest for a single venue. We're really excited about that. We're looking forward to the future of this piece of the sailing program. They've actually been off at clinics, and we've brought in 2 coaches over the course of the last 2 weeks to provide some instructions. One of them is one of the best college sailors in the country, and the other one is one of the top coaches in the country. And so they're really gaining a lot of experience and looking forward to taking it off onto the lakes and competing and hopefully coming back with some success. I want to remind folks that there's opportunities for fitness at the beach as well. We're offering beach boot camp, sunrise, and sunset yoga. The beach boot camp and the sunrise yoga take place on Friday mornings with boot camp at 6 and yoga at 7, and then sunset yoga is on Wednesday evenings at 7. So opportunity to enjoy the beach that way. We also offer some classes for those little ones, 5 months to 4 years with a caregiver. It's called Fun at the Beach. They come in on Wednesday mornings and do all kinds of fun activities and just enjoy the surroundings. And our countdown to Christmas is in July. It's July 19th this year. We're showing the movie at the beach, and that is Happy Feet. And it starts at 8 p.m. and rumor has it that Santa Claus will come in and welcome us to Christmas and the countdown. And so that is the great stuff that's going on at the lakefront. While we are being challenged operationally, we're still enjoying what we have. Any
Questions or comments, Ms. Sherrill?
I'm always struck by how quickly August gets here, and and I'm always hoping, I guess, that the beach can be enjoyed well into November, frankly. What do you think about extending that August 18th date? I'm sure you've looked at it in the past. I don't remember the answer.
So we actually will have lifeguards in the boating center on the weekends through Labor Day. But at that point, I lose my staff completely. They have got to go back to school, Michelle, unfortunately. I have to let them go. And about August 18th is when there's the mass exodus. We, are always looking for opportunities to do some kind of programming down there. Rob does the family camp out in September. We do a huge regatta for the Midwestern region for Halloween. And so we're always looking for ways to actually utilize the beach, but I can't staff it because I simply just don't have the bodies.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Sally. Jason?
Great, thank you. And we'll have, again, both Mike and Sally back at the July 15th City Council meeting for another update. And then finally, just one last informational item as a follow-up to Alderman Rummel's comments at the last council meeting. I wanted to alert both the council and the public to an upcoming meeting hosted by the Lake County Stormwater Management Commission. The county will discuss the recently revised rainfall data and how it will impact developments going forward. City staff will be in attendance, and residents are certainly welcome to attend as well. The dates, as you can see on the screen there, are Tuesday, July 16th at 2 p.m. And in addition, just wanted to, again, notify the council that staff is working to prepare a memorandum for the city council reviewing stormwater management in general. I think, including both actions taken to date and options for the future. So more to come on that. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to entertain them. Otherwise, that completes my report.
Okay. Thank you, Jason. Next on the agenda item is item number 3, committee reports. We'll lead off with the Finance Committee. There's one item, and that's consideration of the annual appropriation ordinance for fiscal year 2020 and approval of rollovers, first reading. Presented tonight by Elizabeth Holub, Finance Director, City of Lake Forest.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Newman, and good evening, City Council members. Requested action this evening by the City Council is to grant first reading of the fiscal year 20 appropriations ordinance. The city's fiscal year is May 1 to April 30. In early May or late April, the City Council considers approval and did grant approval to a comprehensive fiscal plan for FY20, including an annual budget. However, the actual legal mechanism to grant authority for expenditure of city funds is through the appropriations ordinance. So the worksheet attached in your packet and on the screen here just provides a walkthrough of how we arrived at the appropriation ordinance numbers, because it does differ a bit from the budget. We start out with the legally approved fiscal year 20 annual budget. Those are provided by fund in the first column. We subtract from that debt service payments on general obligation bonds, because the appropriation authority is granted as part of the bond ordinance when the bonds are issued. So annual debt service obligations don't need to be included in the appropriations ordinance. The addition, called rollovers, are those budgeted items from fiscal year 19 that were not started or began but could not be completed during fiscal year 19, and departments are requesting that budget authority to be granted as a rollover to fiscal year 20. The detail of those rollovers are included in your packet, so by fund you can see the actual project and specific amount requested by the departments for rollover. We then get to a subtotal. To that subtotal, the city has historically added 10%, a 10% contingency amount to take into account any unforeseen expenditures throughout the year that may be occurring, and was granted approval for authority by the City Council for expenditure, but were not foreseen and included in the budget. So this just provides us appropriation authority to make that expenditure. I want to note, though, that throughout the year, only the budget and rollovers are included in the city's financial system, so we are working to the budget numbers, not to the appropriation ordinance. So that would be an exception, and those would be approved by the City Council. And then that brings us to the total for the appropriation ordinance that is included in your packet. And again, we would request first reading approval of that appropriation ordinance this evening. And then on July 15th, we would present the final appropriation ordinance and also conduct a public hearing before the City Council considers final approval. Any questions? I'm happy to address them.
Can I just ask a question about the contingency? It looks like we've been doing that for 30 years, so it's obviously an established practice. Is that something we initiated, or was that wasn't state mandated or something?
It is not state
That's
mandated.
something we see as best practice.
Right, and it is a fairly common practice in those municipalities using the appropriation ordinance.
Okay.
You could amend your appropriation ordinance throughout the year as you have these unexpected items, but it would require a public hearing, and so it would necessitate some administrative complications. And then you do consider at the end of the year a supplemental appropriation ordinance if anything significant has actually required expenditure above the appropriation ordinance amount by fund.
Good, thank you.
Other questions? Alderman Moreno?
On the capital improvement rollover, it's quite a large number. I recognize that big projects don't always go the way you think they will from a timing perspective, but we have so much demand, especially when it comes to flooding and stormwater and sanitary sewers and upgrading, and those projects are so extensive and time-consuming to design and develop and get into the roles. But I'm struck by the amount of this rollover.
It is significant, and it is why we provide the itemized details. So in pages 12 and 13 of your packet, I would note for clarification that if a rollover has a vendor name identified, then that means the city council has already authorized that project, awarded a bid, approved a project to proceed, and it simply hasn't been finished. I would note that we typically have a higher number at first reading because we're still paying invoices that will be charged back to FY19. We try to clean that out in May, but we are still getting invoices from departments related to FY19 work that then reduces the rollover. So it may be a smaller number in July, and then those items that are listed with a not applicable or an NA for vendor name means that it wasn't initiated. So that for whatever reason, that project wasn't able to get started, the council wasn't able to grant an actual award of bid or contract, and so the departments would like to continue with those projects, but do so in FY20.
So from the finance perspective, from your perspective, should we be more aggressive on our capital improvements and our capital commitments on a year-to-year basis, or are we running fine? Are we leaving too many projects on the table for the future is what I'm asking.
I would suspect that there's a story that a department head could provide for every single one of these projects, what delayed them, and they're all unique circumstances. But that number will fluctuate significantly from year to year.
Thank you.
Other questions? Any questions or comments from the public on this agenda item? Seeing none, we'll bring it back here, and I would like to see a motion to approve first reading of the fiscal 2020 appropriation ordinance and the rollovers. A copy of the ordinance is available for review by the public in the city clerk's office. A public hearing will be conducted on July 15th, 2019 in conjunction with second reading of the ordinance.
So moved.
Seconded.
Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Beidler?
Aye.
Alderman Morris?
Aye.
Alderman Newman?
Aye.
Alderman Preschlack?
Aye.
Alderman Gashgarian?
Aye.
Alderman Moreno?
Aye.
Alderman Bushman?
Aye.
7 yea, 0 nay, motion carries.
Thank you, Betty. Next on the agenda, in item 3 is Public Works Committee. We have two items. First, item A, approval of a contract with Hay and Associates, Inc. to provide engineering design services for the Rosemary Road Ravine Project in an amount not to exceed $77,750, presented by Jim Lockefear, Public Works Management Analyst, City of Lake Forest.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and members of the City Council. Tonight, there are two Public Works Committee ravine repairs before you. I have presentations prepared for both, just focusing on this area first. The Rosemary Ravine repair. Just a quick overview of the project area, where it's located. This area is located east of Sheridan, east of Thorn Lane, and it's on the north side of Rosemary Road. You'll see on the slide there's a yellow circle that highlights that specific area. The issues in this area that are in need of repair, and actually how this area was first discovered for the repair, a sinkhole was found adjacent to Rosemary Road. This sinkhole actually formed because of the box culvert in that area, the ravine slope that is adjacent to it. There's been some undercutting of water that has caused that slope to erode and pull down the slope, forming the sinkhole. And also another key issue in that area is the brick culvert that crosses under Rosemary Road. It actually is on the south side and continues north. You'll see a picture on the right-hand side there. The bridge walls, there's been a collapse on the east and west side. You'll also see some deterioration of the brick in some other areas, as well as a fairly large debris jam there that will also get cleaned up through this project. So with that, we are seeking city council's, and when I say we, city staff and the Public Works Committee are seeking the council's approval to approve a contract with Hay & Associates to provide the engineering design services for this project area in an amount not to exceed $77,750. If the council recalls, back in September of 2018, a professional services agreement, a 3-year agreement with Hay & Associates was approved. That agreement stemmed from a staff RFP process that was completed in August. The reason that RFP process was initiated was to select 2 firms to provide the city with these public ravine engineering services. We've talked before, I know Michael Thomas has been at a lot of budget meetings, letting the council know that a lot of ravine issues with the heavy storms and rainfall we've experienced are going to continue to pop up. We wanted to identify 2 firms for project efficiency and consistency. And also, these areas are very unique and challenging, so we wanted to identify firms that have a great deal and a great experience in working with ravines. So as part of that RFP process, we required the firms to submit detailed project history of things they have completed locally. Hay & Associates met that through the proposal process. And also, they submitted, like every firm participating in that RFP, their fee schedule of their project team. That fee schedule outlined the project team's hourly rate. Staff was comfortable with those hourly rates that they had proposed. So funding this specific project area, there is a FY20 capital improvement account, the Rosemary Ravine headwall failure account, that has $50,000 budgeted. We are requesting that full amount. And then for the budget overage of $27,750, we're requesting that money is pulled from the Storm, Bluff, Ravine, and Ditch improvements account. That's an annual CIP account. This fiscal year, there's $230,000 allocated there. And then just a quick note, why the overage? Back in October, we originally estimated this project to be $50,000. At that time, there was no concrete preliminary engineering done. And unfortunately, through the discovery process, those wall collapses were a little bit more significant than we originally anticipated. There's high structural engineering costs involved with that to ensure the integrity of Rosemary Road through this project is constructed in a proper way. So with that, happy to take any questions on the project area.
Council discussion or questions?
I do have a question, I'm sorry. When we met in the Public Works Committee, we talked about the apparent age and potential significance of a pipe made of bricks. Any further discussion or discovery related to any items of significance from a history perspective, or anything that we might think about, especially with our ravine structures, which do tend to be older structures? Is there anything that we need to be thinking about from a character of Lake Forest perspective?
Sure, and in this case, that brick line culvert is truly under the road and not visible, and I think a key concern is the deterioration there. There's been talks of potentially lining that through this process. And I do know, Michelle, that conversation that occurred at our Public Works Committee, Alderman Rummel had brought up for the head wall too on the next project, and I can speak further to that. For this one specifically, historical significance being under the road and completely not visible at all, our main goal through this is to make sure the structural integrity is solid. It's a public road, sees a lot of traffic. We want to make sure whatever work is designed and ultimately constructed is done in the proper way.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Any opportunity, we have an opportunity now for the public to comment on this agenda item. Seeing none, I bring it back to council. I'd like a motion, please. Approval of a contract with Hay and Associates, Inc. to provide engineering design services for the Rosemary Road Ravine Project in an amount not to exceed $77,750.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Beidler?
Aye.
Alderman Morris?
Aye.
Alderman Newman?
Aye.
Alderman Preschlack?
Aye.
Alderman Kashgarian?
Aye.
Alderman Moreno?
Aye.
Alderman Bushman?
Aye.
7 yeas, 0 nay, motion carries.
Thank you. Next item, item 2, under the Public Works Committee, approval of a contract with Black Engineering Company, Inc. to provide engineering design services for the Ringwood Road Ravine Project in an amount not to exceed $44,500. Mr. Lockefair, you may continue, please.
Thank you. So the Ringwood Ravine repair is located east of Sheridan on Ringwood, just north. And again, that same yellow circle highlights the specific area where these issues are and ultimately these issues that need to be repaired. What we have found here is a failure of a stone retaining wall. That picture on the right-hand side there is a good shot that shows and demonstrates that. As a result of that failure of the retaining wall, the wall has actually collapsed into the stormwater box culvert, which crushed it, and also has caused the adjacent ravine bank or slope to slide. So those are the main issues that ultimately through this design and through the construction project we will be seeking to repair. Recommendation similar to the first one. This time though, we're seeking, the Public Works Committee and staff is seeking the approval of a design service agreement with Black Engineering to provide engineering design services for the Ringwood area in an amount not to exceed $44,500. This one we did have budgeted for $45,000, so this came in slightly under. And again, Black was, there's a 3-year agreement with Black. That was a result of the RFP process that was initiated in August, and ultimately the agreement with Black was approved in September of 2018 by City Council. And then one last point, Alderman Moreno, this was the one, I think there was a little bit more conversation in regards to the head wall, any historical significance. We will be reaching out to the Society of Historical Preservation Foundation to have that conversation, have them take a look at it. It is an interesting area though. Again, you can't see it. No resident is going to be able to get down there. Access is really, really rough unless you have a rope. It's very, very tough, but we will still engage with them to have that conversation.
Thank you.
Other questions?
In terms of Black Engineering, they have a familiarity with the specific ravine, and that would be a reason also for going with Black?
Correct. So being in the first year of the 2 3-year agreements with both firms, we wanted to assign each firm a project. So that way, when we made it through the project design and ultimately construction, we go back. Public Works staff will sit down and analyze how the process went with both firms. The reason why Hay was awarded, or we selected Hay for the Rosemary Ravine repair and Black for the Ringwood repair, was because back in April of 2018, Black had actually done some preliminary engineering work for the Ringwood Ravine. So we didn't want to give that to Hay with Black already starting that process there.
Jim, can I just ask, so when it says in both of these, I realize we've now voted for the other one, engineering design services, but that, they're actually going to get it fixed? No?
They'll be designing it, and then it'll follow the typical standard construction process where we'll go out to bid. And
Oh, all
firms
right, so this is just design?
Yeah,
So
this
these
is
won't
strictly
be-
design.
So what's the big picture for getting them repaired, actually repaired?
So getting them actually repaired, we've given both firms deadlines of by early October, October 1st essentially, because that will then meet our next deadline, October 15th, when all the CIP project budget that has to be put together. So we want that concrete construction estimate that we can then
Okay, so
prepare.
we'll see that in the 21 CIP budget. Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Anyone else? Any comments from the public? Seeing none, we'll bring it back here. Looking for a motion for the approval of a contract with Bleck Engineering Company to provide engineering design services for the Ringwood Road Ravine Project in an amount not to exceed $44,500.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Alderman Beidler?
Aye.
Alderman Morris?
Aye.
Alderman Newman?
Aye.
Alderman Preschlack?
Aye.
Alderman Kashgarian?
Aye.
Alderman Moreno?
Aye.
Alderman Bushman?
Aye.
7 yeas, 0 nay, motion carries.
Thank you, Biddy. Agenda item number 4, opportunity for citizens to address council on non-agenda items. I don't even see any public. Moving on, agenda item 5, items for omnibus vote consideration. I'm gonna read 3 items tonight. Rob's not gonna be happy. As always, if any of these items would like to be removed and discussed separately, item number 1, approval of the June 3rd, 2019 City Council meeting minutes. Item 2, award Multi-System Management Company a 3-year janitorial services contract included in the fiscal year 2020 to 2022 operating budgets in the annual amount of $226,908. Item 3, consideration of ordinances approving recommendations from the Building Review Board, first reading, and if desired by the City Council, final approval. Questions, points? Alderman Bushman.
Mr. Mayor Pro Temp, I'd ask that the first item, the approval of the minutes, be removed from action tonight and postponed for action at our next meeting. I'm suggesting some clarifications to it, but these clarifications should be reviewed by Mayor Penn Leon before we take action on them. So I'd ask for this action item to be deferred to a later meeting.
Any discussion on that point? Okay, so if I understand correctly, we're going to have a motion to approve items 2 and 3?
Yes, so the pulling of the minutes doesn't require a vote. The tabling it to the next meeting will. So you could act on 1 and 2 first, or what, the other 2.
Right.
And do a vote on that, and then do a motion to table the minutes until the next meeting.
Okay, so a motion to approve items 2 and 3 in the omnibus tonight.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Alderman Beidler?
Aye.
Alderman Morris?
Aye.
Alderman Newman?
Aye.
Alderman Preschlack?
Aye.
Alderman Kashgarian?
Aye.
Alderman Moreno?
Aye.
Alderman Bushman?
Aye.
7 yeas, 0 nay, motion carries.
Thank you, Biddy. Another motion to delay approval of the June 3rd minutes until revisions have been made and re-presented to council at a future date.
That's a voice vote, so we just need a motion and a second.
So moved to table it.
Second.
Okay, voice vote?
Yes, sir.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item 6, ordinances, there are none tonight. Item 7, new business, there is none tonight. Item 8, additional items for discussion, comments by council members. Any council members have any items they wish to discuss not part of the agenda? Seeing none, we move to adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Is that a roll call or a voice? Voice. Okay, voice vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting is adjourned.
Well done. Wow. You're gonna-